The issue of when a global reserve currency begins or ends is not an exact science. There are no press releases announcing it, and neither are there big international conferences that end with the signing of treaties and a photo shoot. Nevertheless, we can say with confidence that the reign of every world reserve currency has to come to an end at some point in time. During a changeover from one global currency to another, gold and silver has always played a decisive role. Central banks and governments have long been aware that the dollar has a sell-by date as a reserve currency, but it has taken until now for the subject to be discussed openly. Questions regarding the global reserve currency are not exactly discussed on CNBC every day. Most mainstream economists avoid the topic like the plague. The issue is too politically charged. However, that doesn't make it any less important for the American public to begin looking for answers right now. So consider the following questions that need to be asked. 1. What indications are there that the world has turned its back on the US dollar? 2. What are the clues that gold's role could be strengthened in a new system? The mechanism underlying today's dollar standard is widely known as the term Petrodollar, as it's described. This system is based on an informal agreement that U.S. and Saudi Arabia arrived at in the mid-1970s. The result of this deal, oil and consequently all other important commodities, is traded in U.S. dollars, and only in U.S. dollars. Oil producers then recycle these petrodollars into U.S. treasuries. This circular flow of dollars has enabled the U.S. to pile up a towering mountain of debt of over $20 trillion and counting, without having to worry about its own financial stability, at least until now. The fact that this video is being presented to you now represents a subtle clue that there are simmering shifts in the global currency system happening right now. The trend becomes more tangible and can be described by the following term: de-dollarization. The world's looking for alternatives to the dollar. Since 1973, the dollar standard has been based on usage demand for dollars. They were needed. But when China and Russia established alternatives for themselves by implementing bilateral tradings, they no longer need dollars. There have been many attempts by various nations to undermine the dollar's preeminence in recent decades. Some were nipped in the bud by U.S. interventions, such as the plan of Iraq's former dictator, Saddam Hussein, to sell oil for euros, or the rumored plan of Libya's eccentric ruler, Muammar Gaddafi, to issue a pan-African gold currency. As of this past week, the current president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has now threatened to ban the dollar also. Others are less well known but are indeed continuing to bubble below the surface. For example, since 2008, an agreement exists between Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, which provides for the creation of a monetary union. The project is inspired by the European Union currency, which is seen as a great success in the Arab world, according to an article by Telegraph journalist Ambrose Evans Pritchard. He, inter alia, quotes Nahid Tahir, the CEO of Bahrain Gulf One Investment Bank, as saying, "The U.S. dollar has failed. We need to delink from it." A clear signal that something is afoot would be the abolition of the Saudi riyal's peg to the U.S. dollar. As recently as April of this year, economist Nazir Saeed advised Middle Eastern countries to prepare for a new normal, and specifically to review the dollar's peg of their currencies. He was quoted as saying, "By 2025, it is clear that the center of global economic geography is very much in Asia. What we've been living in under over the last 2 decades is a very big shift in the political, economic, and financial geography." While the role of the oil-producing countries, and particularly Saudi Arabia, shouldn't be underestimated, at present, the driving forces with regard to de-dollarization are primarily Moscow and Beijing. There exist numerous political statements in the context which leave no room for doubt. The Russians and Chinese are quite open about their views regarding the role of gold in the current phase of the transition. In March, Russia's central bank opened its first office in Beijing. Russia is preparing to place its first renminbi-denominated government bond there. Both sides have intensified efforts in recent years to settle bilateral trade not in U.S. dollars, but in rubles and yuan. Gold is considered important by both countries. The gradual move away from the U.S. dollar to a multipolar monetary order has several important effects, which only makes sense when viewed through these lenses. The most important effect has become evident since 2014. Two of the largest holders of U.S. treasuries, China and Saudi Arabia, have abandoned their support of Washington. On the other hand, oil producers have no interest in recycling their revenues as petrodollars. The process of moving away from the dollar, prepared by Europe and triggered by China and Russia, can no longer be stopped. As a supranational reserve asset, gold and silver plays an important role in it. The question to ask yourself now is, What will happen to all those dollars once nations clean house? It doesn't take a degree in finance or economics to answer that. A plentiful supply with no demand can only spell trouble for those that are holding them. It is no coincidence as to why governments hoard precious metals while still dishing out paper money to their citizens. What are your thoughts on the de-dollarization process underway? What will you be holding when the monetary shift happens? Take a minute to comment and share this video so others can find out the important news today.